I'm Solmaz Sharif. I'm an associate professor here in the Department of English. Welcome everyone to the Holloway Reading Series. It's an honor to be here with you all. I'm one of the co-curators, but real thanks goes to Catherine Franco, who is the heart and mind behind so much of what is happening tonight. And thanks as well to all in the office, Dana, Grace, John, Jomari, whose efforts bring us our readers each semester. Pegasus Books is in the back as well. Thank you for joining us, and we hope that you'll stick around and purchase some books from our reader tonight, Fargo Tbakhi. Before we begin, I want to say something about the next reading, which will happen on November 4th. Harriet Mullen will be joining us. Do sign up. There should be, I believe there's an email list. If there isn't one, we will take down your email so you can stay up to date about all the Holloway happenings. For those of you who have not been here before, Holloway Reading Series was first established in 1981 and continues today in a lovely arrangement whereby graduate students read alongside our visiting poets. Introductions are also handled by our students, and so tonight Uttara Chowdhury will introduce Rebecca Nieto, who will read for a bit, and then Idil Hassan will introduce our reader tonight, Fargo Tbakhi. And with that, I will be getting out of their way. So please, if we could give a round of applause for Uttara.
Hi everybody, nice to see you all. So I'm going to begin with, is this good? Too much? Further? Here? Yeah, okay. So I'm going to begin with just Rebecca's bio, and then I will talk a little bit about my experience of her poems. So Rebecca Maria Nieto is a poet and scholar based in Berkeley, California, a Chicana and native of Albuquerque, New Mexico. Her research and writing practices work with the symbolic and historical co-constituency between embodiment, colonialism, psychopathology, and poetics. She holds a BA in English from Oberlin College, a Master's of Library Science and Archival Studies from McGill University, and is of course a PhD candidate in English at UC Berkeley. So I have to say, when Becca asked me to introduce her for Holloway, I was very touched for many reasons that she thought of me, but I was also really nervous because I'm not a poet in any formal sense, and certainly quite outside the poetic center of gravity here at Berkeley. And when I told her that, she said very generously, and to comfort me, she said it could be a good thing because perhaps I could give an introduction that was more grounded. So I've sort of been thinking about this word as I've savored Becca's poems, which actually offer quite a startling meditation on groundedness, on what makes ground, on who gets to be grounded, and the vital necessity for all of us to be ungrounded as her poems do for us. So, in this poem called Unhandsomely, where the monsoon is adjusting the ground to instant coffee, which I thought was just delightful, the deflating lyric eye is revived fleetingly by staking a shy, sure, subjunctive claim on the ground of any rigorous white place, were there any such vacancy, with the exhale of its unprettiest line, I am here. In a poem with a delicious bluesy title called She Wants Something Rude, and I thought, has a smoking woman been described better, ever? The myth of shared ground is obscured and refracted by the haze of Marlborough Reds as every day and where there is a woman whose air is felt, degraded by the air of another. I think finally these pieces ask whether a kind of regrounding may be possible if language can imagine new grounds for being and relating, and Becca's wonderful homage, Dating for Kids after Joshua Clover, offers us a kind of wry reassurance. Reality can be unkind, yet livable as form. So, if, as Clover wrote, and we've heard so much after his passing, nothing is over, that is the only certainty. The other certainty is that everything ends, even this. Then Becca's dazzling forms give us what perhaps we need most desperately right now, which is a reason to go on living. So, thank you, Rebecca.
So much, Uthra. Thank you so much for coming. Yeah, this notion of eccentricity is something I feel to poetry, including to poetry. I'm humbled to be here. It's been a while since I've read at this podium. Thank you to the organizers. All right, I just have a few moments to give right now, so I'll begin. Yeah. This first, as shared, is called Dating for Kids, and it's after Joshua Clover. Getting born can be unkind. That first displaced oath, the empty house, its leave-taking, going forward with a tax and name. If poor sleep is lent happily to the sickest sleepers, wouldn't even sinister dreaming improve this creasing and unproductive fit? It's a debt unique to children, the arrival, an institutional greeting, then the rest, caldera childhood without knowledge of royaling lineage. Some pink youths find a palinode to lewd and nervous earthliness, slouched towards the edge, thirsting blushes from beige night. Oh, epinephrine to the actual, how naturally it translates into a punk rock club, the furnace turned out, clots elemental sprains, how these limbs stretch to an adequate extremity. A child might develop belief in strong gods then, suspendered and parentless, ropey Mexican crust punks, their greaser hair and necks spangled with panthers. Reality can be unkind, yet livable as form, without heaven's protective wafer. A million brown arrows spreading from and towards this crust, its chittering night. Belief deepens depending on a child's creasing, into or away from life, as what is the word for available to love. Such crudely slouched objects, the soul's weight equal to that of mind. Can there be ascension by wayward, what is it for, any warehoused bliss, grouping its raves, the saddling of a passing vision, flushed with screamers in their caves? It's an initial finger to banking, the all of the, how can any of this be, down here. A child's first fist is not toward the father, but calendar. Its destitute drives seek permission to put a little blue in one's hair, to resemble semi-permanently the color of the sky when it falls. This one is called Very Healthy Country. White light exceeds desert snow, suggestive of Sunday asphodel. On dune piles, pockets of scattered blindnesses. The luteal noonday moon gallops to catch itself by dusk. Effluence glows, molding duochrome pool. The desert capitulates to naval base. Every building an armed locker. Jets kettle to meet altitude, earn inscription by biospheric slits. To produce a superior difference must transcend sound barrier, the volcano's inner song. Fatted kettle asks for more breath, winter morning with deficits. Young Ariels and Jasmines put on secondhand shearling and black and cherry wigs to play princess in their backyard off Wantago. Wolves raising wolves, jets kettling overhead. Such a day's developments roll to give identification of fitness, a girlhood, a stairwell descended with haste, jets kettle to mar desert snow. King Prawn. Something brutal is going on with what we are permitted to possess, wanting nothing but Neolithic delight. the avid sounds of desert cuisine, hibachi prawn, red lobster cocktail, drippy lemon wedge, rank curs teemed by the dumpster, 100 degrees, puppies snuffling shells. What is this fever I run toward? Completion. Who gave it to me? Who said I consented to this cleavage for pink food? What functionary inspires this impaired thirst? It's as if some of us inherit appetite at muffled frequency. Do you hear the moo of the desert monastery, the fishing hole abutting it, the water's face, the scales falling from it? Stimug. I survived having a body by existing 10 feet behind it. My innate stresses, body, spirit, split like the unhooking of an awkward I am. I like remaining otherwise than the beginning, where the body rouses and cases the day, before the spirit like a toy soldier. In either rousing, they meet the conditions of day, set on wresting control over those conditions that rush up to meet me on waking life, a tight-fitting garment. In the between of spirit and body, there has always been a specter in a black trench coat, a duffel bag. He has been there before I ever was. He is worse than Pinocchio, terrible puppet. He lends me this felty dread that, by going forward and filling myself with a willingness to conditions as they are, like naming all the conditions of life that are corn, polyblend, or sugar, I will subtract the tragedy and be left with a neutral ribbon. And what kind of life would that leave me? My inner heat transformed to loving insulation? Oh torture, toy body, my crushed silver box. Unhandsomely. All summer, I wandered the red cliffs of O'Keefe country in my long, wet dress. It was when I was not in love, a tiresome circumstance among attractive circumstances. The country weather was voluptuous in its transition. Sky became lapis, monsoon shampooed the ruddy mantle, adjusting the ground to instant coffee. And it became beautiful to see it so. O'Keefe country, which was my country, Pueblo washes and shallow pools, exoskeletal roughnesses, a prancing jackalope. Sometimes I went in disguise here as ominous groundskeeper of the bleached dunes, the arthritic cedars, and here was the desert mosque, its halls subtending a curious calm. Plaza Blanca was quiet. It was a white place. I came here when I needed to roll my R's better, or to be reminded that why is not a spiritual question, though the asking, like the ache of a graying molar, was so actual that I tongued it into urgency. I had a teacher of the Kantian sublime whose first charge to us was to define ugliness. I had spent some time wandering these regions, studying the allure of ruin, that zone enjoyed by the retrospective eye. Ugliness is a giver, I wrote, of powerful sentiment, disgust cushioned by desire. Speeding through the canyon, I saw a billboard that read, "We got you, New Mexico, we buy ugly houses." In this country, the nays of pintos are hoisted by seasonless gusts. Vanity is abdominal, humoral and ghastly on the inside, toned on the outside. A ruin is a study in the occult, the unhandsome parts residing in the shadowed, gloomy rind of the self. The pentagrams on the cliffside etchings have much to teach about scorn, estimation, and judgment, a style that flattens grasses with its calloused hand and salts the burnt caramel halls. That I would gain admittance to any rigorously white place. Were there any such vacancy, I would knock its door of air. My knock would say, "Please do not leave, my unprettiest line, I am here." Thank you.
Hello everyone, good evening. Thank you so much for your reading. It's beautiful. I had the pleasure of doing the introduction for today. Let's see. Microphones always want to be in my face, huh? One poem that continues to work within me long after I finish poet and performance artist Fargo Nissim Tbakhi's debut poetry collection, Terror Counter, is the dream of the anti-ekphrasis, a poem written after Marwan Kassabachi's portrait painting Three Palestinian Boys. The posture of the third boy on the right wears a tense different from the other two, as if overhearing what is outside the portrait itself, and either moves or is pulled to what exists beyond the right of the canvas. And what is left of him inside the portrait is his slanted ear, his tilted neck, nothing left of his face, which tells us no more than what is expressed by the silent look of his compatriots in boyhood. It is this tilting that catches Tbakhi's attention, the question, where is the third beloved head? An answer, it is where all our heads go. Where are their legs, their feet? Where the soil ends and the dream begins. The poem mediates in the violations that regulate the border between insides and outsides, what appears to us as the page in the world. In this poem, the torsos of the boys are a picket line the gaze must not cross. The poem eludes traditional ekphrastic address. Ekphrasis, from the Greek meaning to speak from, and from a visual medium, often tasks the poet who, in the name of relief from silence, ferries the subject of the image into speech, speaks from within, plays ventriloquist out of narrative demand, which settles the poet's need for revelation and that of the marketplace into the occupation of the subject. But that's not what happens here. Whatever I am seeking is nowhere, and whoever I wish to be is dead. In response to press portraits published by Germany of Palestinian children in the aftermath of the Six-Day War, Marwan painted 3 Palestinian children. Marwan wanted neither to make a heroic portrait out of these children, nor a memorial, patriotic art, or the pet press portrait, a kind of portrait for the public audience that brings vague awareness. Tbakhi's echoes, years later, where do they belong? Never in the marketplace of nations, never in the deleterious exchange of hands. And so the question arises in the portrait, in the poem, across the collection, who's writing, where does the image of the beloved belong? And elsewhere, there was a beloved pulled into the document, beyond the poem's groping walls outside its foreclosed imaginary, may they rest. And if not the world, what genre might the beloved's image find rest? And is this question of genre one of the 1,000 faces liberation layers? This is the dream dreamt across this collection, writing which moves restlessly from despair to the ecstatic, from the suspicious to the wry, the double rhythm of heartbreak and heartbeat, the syncopation symptomatic of the spiritual struggle that is to live in this world. This is an attention that moves through Imperial Poetics Limited, in which Tbakhi's calculated summary of the decay of American poetry is reminiscent of Dion Brand's reading of the same. I diagnose them by their sentences. I take it by their syntax. They are not alive. Into the experimental visual poems of the Gazan tunnels, where remarks of Biden and the Balfour Declaration are text to be tunneled through. To the exuberant Palestine is a futurism, which has the hypnotic quality of June Jordan's Intifada incantation. The sun has set on the British Empire, on the American Empire, on the empire of Goldman Sachs, on the empire of possibility eaters. To Ritha al-Nafs, the self-elegy inherited from Mahmoud Darwish, we are not repeated here. We transverse some space outside narratability. We are somewhere. Nobody can see us. If ekphrasis is a mode of writing that looks from one side to another, what keeps it from mirroring the logic of surveillance, the parasitic terror-twin relationship between the craft of poetry and statecraft? In an essay entitled Notes on Craft, Writing in the Hour of Genocide, Tbakhi calls craft a set of regulatory ideas which curtail forms of speech that might enact real danger to the constellation of economic and social values, which are, as Tbakhi writes this, and as I read this aloud tonight, facilitate genocide in Palestine and elsewhere across the globe. Perhaps an anti-ekphrasis might be this, the narration of one already within an enclosure, gazing at the beloved within theirs, and wondering of touch, the touch of an outside. In lieu of craft, it is a touch that can only be mediated through the breaking of the line between the cultural and the material. He continues, Palestine demands that all of us, as writers and artists, consider ourselves in the principled solidarity with a long cultural intifada that is built alongside and in collaboration with the material intifada. I think dearly of the spoon in this essay, which in September of 2021, Palestinian prisoners, one of which in the Freedom Theater, used to dig themselves out of prison. The spoon reworked into what Tbakhi calls an immeasurable creative force that breaks the prison using only the artifacts of their survival. Or in Palestine as a futurism, inside a poem they found a tunnel, inside the tunnel we found ourselves. I think of just a month prior, on a particularly warm August day, the prisoners of the St. Louis Justice Center. The prisoners of justice broke open the windows of justice using chairs. They have narration in the form of signs, memorials of time of lost ones of court dates. Soon enough, their banners caught flame, and even the word freedom lifted up. As down below, on the street, loved ones gather and look up. Every day we are saying no to the things that keep us apart. Every day we are saying no to enclosure. Perhaps there is another word in that other world for where we are headed. Tbakhi's collection is helpful in remembering who are our teachers, who are our friends. The lessons are always already around us, how to break form. The shudder of the acquired, shattering narrative itself, recounting with either the spoon or the chair, the faithlessness required to break the faith in every form of captivity, from prisons, open air or otherwise, to death cults masquerading as nations or sonnets. I do believe that words emerge from walls and not the other way around. Perhaps this is what the dream of an anti-ekphrasis anticipates, the gasp of every wall becoming an outside. With all the warmth in the world, please join me in welcoming Fargo.
Thank you so much for that very, very generous introduction, thank you, Solnaz, thank you, Berkeley, thank you, Catherine, thank you, Pegasus Books, all the rest. Would you like to hear a Palestinian joke? Yeah? Okay. So there are 3 secret agents walking through the woods. There's a CIA agent, a KGB agent, and an agent of the Shin Bet, the Israeli military security forces. They come across a rabbit. They decide to make a bet, and they decide to see which one of them can catch the rabbit the fastest. So they set the rabbit off into the woods, and first the CIA agent goes after the rabbit. 5 minutes go by, 10 minutes go by, and he comes back holding the rabbit. And the KGB agent says, "That's nothing. Watch this." They let the rabbit go, runs off into the woods, and the KGB agent goes after it. 5 minutes go by, 6 minutes go by, 7 minutes go by, and the KGB agent comes back with the rabbit. And the agent of the Shin Bet says, "That's nothing. Watch how we do it in Israel." So they set the rabbit free, and he goes off into the woods. 5 minutes go by, 10 minutes go by, 15, 25, 40 minutes go by, and the other 2 start to worry that maybe something went wrong. So they go off into the woods to find where the agent of the Shin Bet went. And they start to get towards a clearing, and they hear something off in the distance. They hear some noises. And they come into this clearing, and they see the agent of the Shin Bet holding a donkey. And he's hitting the donkey over and over and over again. He's hitting the donkey with a wooden stick in places where the bruises won't show. He's electrocuting the donkey with wires. He's hanging the donkey up by its feet. He's slapping the donkey across the face. He's telling the donkey that he killed the donkey's entire family and that the donkey will never see them again. And all the while, he's shouting over and over again, "Admit you're the rabbit! Admit you're the rabbit! Admit you're the rabbit!" I think it's funny. Service for us. They are pleasant. This much I can guess. This much I can ascertain, peering from the stage across the thin membrane which separates us. Membrane which is an agreement about our respective positions, their dowager needs, their Hyundais and New Balances, my ideation, passive, constant, my fright, smokes, mirrors, gentle coughs, murmurs of dinner, runtime, the storm outside swelling, could get lightning, some well-meaning blushes, the solidarity of their capillaries. They come from kind-hearted groups or from newsletters. They eat every day. These aspersions I cast. I can see through their shapes to all the corpses standing quiet behind them. How to speak to those corpses without disturbing the rest. How to say the only thing worth saying to the only people who will listen. What they pay, or mostly don't pay for, is to receive the thing I cannot give without consequence. Consequence I've lived in fear of my entire life on this earth. They want from me in ways I do not understand. I guess what to sign. What I want from them is elusive to me. It is a hole I know they can't fill, but I ask them to anyway. All I know, this asking without possibility of answer. Prayers to a divinity composed of twice-mortgaged buildings, strongly worded letters, privation. Always the corpses echoed whispers, their feedback muffled by the bodies inside this room. These pleasant people are in the way. My straining to listen, to understand what the words do and don't, if the speech acts, where the heat is, why it is not ever where I am. They loathe what I need from them. I loathe that I need it at all, never having understood if I could belong for this world which takes from my speech permission to eat me, eats me for the rest of its life. And here I am, trying to say some truth to people who have relinquished the possibility of hearing it. This life I've accepted as real. This work I've believed to be all. The dead surround the living are the core of the dead, yet here are not my living, unreachable my dead. Only these miserable hands, their rueful applause. What I am to them I can't forget. What they are to me makes me sick. The truth. When the lightning comes, if it ever comes, I pray it strikes me, yes. Not that it strikes only me. Not that I leave here still lonely. One very strong attempt at a clap. Paranoia blessing. Move, they said, so move I did. I did not want to go towards the lens. The view was bleak inside my rods and cones. I turned them inside out to see myself. It was a pretty form, will get you wound around yourself. A woven sky, someone looking down at me. I'm looking back at them. They are housed inside the sniper's nest. 1,000 yards ago in secret meetings, I was found wanting more and more to be a pillar, be licked into oblivion. A welcome home, a village pit. The dogs can't find me, the river hides my scent from them. A bird eats my hair, so I eat the bird. The world eats my family, I can't fit the world in my mouth. Sounds are escalating through militant dimensions in space. No one can hear you, they redact you while you're still speaking. I'm operative, I'm highly charged, I cannot breathe or sleep at night. The bird keeps singing, so I will too. Although the song is brutal to my soul, my debts are large, they are exerting pressure from above. More and more to be nullified in the aggregate, though the aggregate swells. Discontent with fascist bread I dip in the river and swallow somehow. Look at my hands, I'm grayscale. My pulse, I can't tell if it continues somewhere. There is a way to be alive, but I know it's not here. There are times between us. I can't feel love across the bars. I'm a sharpened contradiction. I'm salt emergent, world sky burned. The bird is telling me I need to be terrible to get to that somewhere. Good Lord, last sky, rain upon me all the terror I can handle. They're looking down upon my fear. I must transform it into hate. I look at them, they look at me, but now I break my jaw apart to get them in, dissolve their bones. When I look back, it's through a scope. I'll go ahead and read some things from the book now. This is my debut collection. It's called Terror Counter. It came out in June from Vellum Publishing. Terror Counter. Nothing is extricable. Nothing is extant. We are an eye. We are a door. We are locked. All our means of relation disappear into the grind. The grind is he who slicks my oil throat. I am hijacking everything. Watch. I. The feeling of fear is a good one. Half-shaped, we tumble from the politic's mouth. The giant picks us up, peers at our oiled skins, our yesterday muscles. The giant returns us to the grind. Dandruff speckles from my skull, and each fleck is a drone, warning the bathers of a shark which cannot end and does not stop. What it is to count the state of our forever, to receive a grant for the way my beard does or does not engender fear, my handful of dust. To regulate the fingers of each pore, the language of my wildness, the blood flowing like a trade caravan. I am invaded by blood which wields a razor, which tames my wildness. I am hairless now, smooth as a baby's neck. A baby's neck. A baby. A baby. A baby's neck. A baby wailing forever, interred in rock, soot. A baby's fingernails, too small to offer protection to any power. Inside the poem, trapped, frozen into submission, transfers of meaning, terror and light, cemeteries of courts. Bled for $1, my page count of sorrow, ironically poisoned, no honesty left, songs inside letters, hands inside wells, the wail of it, a path I seek to follow, the wail of it singing, I. need. An American writes a poem, sells it to a university magazine run by exploited graduate students. A different American sees the poem online and buys the magazine for $22.95. Of this, a small percentage to the university, little to nothing to the graduate students, whose union is fomenting daily and with the certainty of mold. The university courts an endowment from a conservative billionaire. Certainly, says the billionaire, and drafts a quick proposal for an endowed chair of the study of international relations through the lens of finance. The chair will, in the next year, recommend a strong legal and policy response to the growing movement for a popular boycott of Israel, which an undergrad will be surveilled and suspended for supporting. The billionaire files his taxes, paying roughly 0.5% of his declared income. In the night, his teeth grind lightly as cruelty works through his system like moss. He will wake with no memory of his dreams, which were Artodian, prophetic. The billionaire's taxes go toward the production of this year's slate of U.S. weaponry and are pocketed by the financiers of major capital, their defense, contracts quietly renewed. At a banquet, the financiers begin to vomit, the shellfish revolting. A percentage of this weaponry is bundled into an $800 million arms deal with the State of Israel. A new kind of infringement on life is dreamt up, written down, and revised to be voted on summarily. The arms deal pays for the restocking of an arsenal depleted during the last escalation of genocide. The arsenal receives a fresh supply, some 10,000 M16A1 rifles, 350 M203 grenade launchers, 200 M250 caliber machine guns, and an assortment of .30 caliber, 50 caliber, and 20 millimeter ammunition, among others whose names have been redacted by the linguists. These weapons are dispersed among the various branches of Israel's occupying forces, who are, as a matter of citizenship, required to take part in the military front of the genocide. A routine settler, once they have fulfilled this requirement, begins to serve on one of the other fronts: ideological, academic, cultural, culinary, linguistic, political, social, economic, and the front of the dreaming. One of the soldiers issued a rifle which fires black sponge rounds, introduced in 2015, heavier and thus more lethal than typical sponge-tipped rounds, which are classified by the occupation forces as non-lethal, despite evidence to the contrary, clambers into his AIL Storm Border Police Jeep, produced by Automotive Industries Limited on a Chrysler license, and scrolls on his phone as the Jeep rumbles toward Al-Ram. He sees the poem. He reads its lines to himself silently. They enact something about grief in his first language. He thinks about Brooklyn. He screenshots the poem before clambering out of the Jeep to aim at the youths throwing stones, most of which are likely repurposed rubble from bombed buildings previously understood by some to be homes. Irritated, the soldier fires a black sponge round into a child's chest, which causes massive internal bleeding that will later cause the child, my cousin Muti, to die. This is the place analysis ends. The soldier will go home and surrender to the dream of militant preservation. He will never think of this day again. I will think of this day constantly, imagining and reimagining the round hurtling through the wind, as again an American poem just breaks somebody's heart. I don't tend to do much banter in between poems, so the joke at the beginning is the most you're going to get. Olive Tree Pastoral. They mean something. These family gnarls, twisted angels. Each branch might be a lesson in history, that object of weight and recourse. Each olive, a divine spirit of a young boy hurling a stone, hurled away from himself from a nation too heavy to hold him up. The roots of the olive tree grow deep, stronger than any metal, holding all of us to the land with them. Oh, leaves of mercy, great brown guardians of the field, shading the hills where our forefathers sweat, where our foremothers baked bread to feed a people. Oh, little spheres, worlds pulped down to oil which coated a young woman's throat, so she might yell a chant so angry she burst into bloom. I recite to the American art curator. She holds my hands, her eyes solemn, wet with wonder and pity. Yes, she says, beautiful. So beautiful. Thank you for your words. She will now go home and forget about me until I email to remind her to send in the recommendation letter for the grant to which I'm applying, which I will not get, but will be honored to be a finalist for. I walk out of her gallery, clutching my poems to my chest, stepping on concrete and passing a grove that I don't look at and that doesn't look at me. The dream of the anti-ekphrasis. 3 Palestinian boys, Marwan, 1970. Death is no equalizer. Nothing is equal in the eyes of, in the gaze of, in the of. Where is the third beloved head? It is where all of our heads go. While they stand consequential as passports, I have hurt myself within the borders of the page. I have done this so they may see me. Where are their legs, their feet, where the soil ends and the dream begins? I have painted myself green and mottled. I have asked my body to crumple and rupture. In the desire pulling my eyes to the paint, they remain. Unreachable, unreached, and unreaching, they remain. Where do they belong? Never in the marketplace of nations. Never in the deleterious exchange of hands. Never in my pitiful abject sight. the torsos joined into a picket line, fused like butter in the crumpled building's dead refrigerator. Where am I to look at them this way, as though lying down for them, prostrate in the tall grass, waiting to be discovered? And my hands so pitiful and empty, the language of survival cold within my teeth. Whatever I am seeking, it is nowhere, and whoever I wish to be is dead. I should kiss each of their cheeks. I should kiss them. I should have kissed them. I should not have been born. And where do they belong? In the gentle abjection of the cactus spine, a bird impaled upon it. In the blood leaking from the general's eyes as he gurgles. In the survival language cracking my teeth to flee my mouth. In the folding and crumpling of my fingers as they break, are broken. Exchange value. My relationship with my father is simple. He lets me write about him in poems I sell for $15 each. Collected in this book, I sell for a $750 advance. I send him another $550 this month to keep his daughters enrolled in school. So which of us the 20 yards of cloth, which the coat? So who values us? Who keeps us warm? Parable. What is the value of poetry in a world so full of violence? This question has been asked of the wise American poet, whose wisdom has made itself known through several volumes of verse, beloved by the many who read and reviewed them, and who is here being lauded for their most recent work, which tackles the Israel-Palestine meaning failure, a term the wise American poet coined as they find conflict too warlike and aggressive and feel that it distracts from what is at the core of the issue, namely humanity. Next to the wise American poet on the stage, in identical chairs, are an Israeli academic and a Palestinian academic, there to praise the wise American poet and marvel at the accuracy of their line breaks. The Israeli academic says, what is beautiful about this book is its objectivity. The Palestinian academic says nothing. The wise American poet nods. The Israeli academic says, wise poet, you are able to find such beauty in such complicated, solutionless difficulties. The Palestinian academic says nothing. Your words are peace bringers, says the Israeli academic. They cut through the noise and bring true understanding. They are conversation creators. The audience murmurs in appreciation, for they have indeed conversed with interest before the talk and will continue to do so afterward. The Palestinian academic speaks at last, back to the question at hand. The audience frowns. The Palestinian academic adds, if you please, a wise one. The audience relaxes. The wise American poet nods. Slowly, the audience holds its breath. Finally, after a silence long and deep, the wise American poet smiles and puts out their hand in beatification. The sun, they announce. The sun shines on the Israeli as it does the Palestinian, does it not? At this, the audience erupts into applause, thunderous and relieved. The wise American poet bows and sheds a tear, upon which the Israeli academic, not to be outdone, weeps openly and profusely. The Palestinian academic says nothing, and as the audience shuffles out, pockets a modest check and leaves out the back door to avoid being spat on. Tonight, the Israeli academic sleeps soundly in their bed, gently rotting, and dreams the dream of emptiness. The Palestinian academic, in the tiny airport room far from sight, 3 hours into the interrogation, rubs their eyes and wipes a little blood from the corner of their mouth. Eventually they sleep, crammed into the hidden corner. They do not dream of poetry, but of tar. The wise American poet, drinking whiskey, filing their taxes, clicks on uncommon income and begins to enter their royalties. Smiling, dreaming the dream of wise American poetry. Craft talk. The first image, a little girl's body pulled out of the rubble. I strike from the poem. Let her rest. Language is a failed state. The second image, my own body, stripped and hung by my fingers, lest their nails, piled neatly on a nearby table, I keep. The poem is a space to rehearse for the future. The third image, a dictum of power, something like the state is, or the Guggenheim-winning poet is. This I soften and blur. In my weaker moments, I still succumb to the desire for a book deal and avoid threatening its keepers. The fourth image, rebel alone, pulled from the mouth of my body, hanging from a hook in the black site. This image I widen so it envelops the entire page, yellow bile coating the margins. I am interested in frightening you. I do not want to be alone anymore. The fifth image, a drone giving birth to a child with gold leaf on its fingernails. I wipe the mucus off. I give it a name. At the edge of the poem, the baby slouches towards Jerusalem. When it crosses the border, the poem can no longer see it. The drone child becomes an imagined condition the poem has released into the world. I do not know what it intends. I do not know what it will eat. The sixth image, my father, dragged into the poem against his will once more. I suspend him here with me. I revel in our togetherness. His nails join mine. Our backs are cut, our eyes plucked out. The cruelty of jailers infected my language. Everything I love, I turn to cruelty. The poem now is just another cell. All I know is how to write us dead. Inside this image, I reach out my little toe and touch the image of my father's little toe. The state is crueler than your poem ever could be. I make the poem, make my father say. Deciding, making decisions. Should I do crowd work? No? Someone shook their head aggressively. I'll read a long one, and then we'll be done. In the knowledge that you will die, and I will die, for my Baba. And we will walk into nowhere, you with your smallness, and me with my smallness, the beach where we froze, were frozen together. When the patrol officer held you, he held you. When you held me close. I answer the video call, and your hair has become white, thin and vanishing, poverty, wraith-like, some incontrovertibility inside of us and our times. I answer the video call smoking, and you say, "You smoke now?" and light up with me. The two of us, in our cigarettes and distance, stumbling along toward death. When my poems disintegrate, you will remain in the documents of the court. When the courts disintegrate, you will slip with me into anonymity, where we began and where we looked for love. The indictment text holding you still and frozen, where you are defending yourself against the being told of, and you are named defendant, last name, first name, and you are named for me and I for you. The pages typed by somebody's hands, who listened around you, shapeless in the clear light. I keep telling you about time and what we need it for, though I do not believe. We find ourselves this morning in our capitals, farther than a ship from safety on the horizon line, its vagueness and its cruelty. I have told your story, and you in your way, you have told mine. You have told it to me. We tell each other the temperature and find that the numbers match, and I look for you in the white of my own hair, its unexpected entrances, to miss each other's funerals because of our difference, to have lost finally our eachness, to be finally no discrete things to be legislated. I wander through the ghosts of your hair. I wander through what remains of you in the holding. We are not repeated here. We traverse some space outside of narratability. We are somewhere nobody can see us. And here you tell me I am whole and wholly yours. And here I tell you I let you go again and again each day. And here we are sweetly entangled and disentangling somewhere beyond the electronics store and its robberies. Your hair is becoming its own memory of itself, and your jacket resides on me like a welcome tick, drawing from me my life, my somewhereness, and my penchants for. I begging some god for illegibility, you forgotten dream of instability. Each day you resist my attempts to narrate you in a manner pleasing to the censors of the spirit, and I learn how to love. What we say to one another becomes electricity, which in turn becomes speech. I look for you in the wavering frequencies. I look for you in the mistranslated texts, the way your hand held me, in the quiet of a rented room, the largeness of the fever's noise in my ears, a rushing which moved us toward death, and so toward each other, to be or to be always undoing our being. In the hours since I saw you last, we have each been lineated, rain outlining our shapes, hapless in the open street. You tell me the house in Jerusalem remains unsold and yet unprofitable. I ask you how your search for work has been. It has not been good. In our electric speech, a yearning for unprofitability, that rubble might be our only property, that I might hold your hand with the same strange force in Home Depot we built birdhouses, painted them together and your breathing soft, you architect of mosques, forget me and my knife, the sweetness of my living, your unification, I will forget you. I will forget you and all the houses you did or did not build. Blue wash, faded text, trying to write itself across your face, specter of one way that Marx was fleshly. I wish I knew the ways to being formless. We rend ourselves more than we are rent, though I do not believe this is true. In the greenery, the most beautiful kind of greenery is the right kind of greenery, Sirhan writes. The greenery of the resort, sanctuary, elements. Hatred envelops me and I am sent to an office. I have been laced. I smell of anthrax, cumin. You live in the places I keep you. Paper in a chemical dress rinsed in the grimy sink. The building worth more than our collected organs. The writing backward whispers, eating the universe and all humans. Undried and so unclear, illegible, a ruin of meaning. I hope you're all right. Workers of the world unite. You have nothing to lose but your chains, writes Sirhan, the last entry in his diary. They sell a page of it online at Walmart. Silence builds upon itself like paper mache. My hands are slick and stuck to a grave that hasn't been dug yet. When I see you again, I wonder where that will be. On the other side of some portal. Through a thicker pane of sorrow, the writing backward, shouting, the distance is an illusion, all we are is the distance. Your birthday on a day I consider dying as an abstraction. Fireworks, encroaching on the boundaries of my shape, placing me somewhere I am closer to your life. To carve from ourselves at once a meaning and its enemy. You are sung to, I am the song. What petition to save us from the bounds of this world? What change? Fugitives against the text, bars of white slashed across our eyes, unknowingness the sign of our tenderness, our arms casting about for each other in the blue, you in the heat of snow, insidious hope, I wish my body a handful of the stuff to drink or nourish some small angel. Tunnels through the regimented words, definitions of dust, specters in the moats. I carve you from the blocks, your image a composite of cosmic dysfunction, transcended past the seconds of historiography. I will meet you in the unrubbled home. I will think of Sirhan reaching in the well for water and finding a severed hand, transitory refuge, rupture in earth, hypnotic. I have realized how much knowledge about myself I lack. I don't know about myself. His handwriting barely decipherable, built upon itself like ruins of Troy, accretion of rubble. I ask you what you want, only to see you, Habibi, the abscess in my tooth or the dream of my tooth, to have leapt through each apocalypse from photograph to photograph, your smile, the teeth yellow like mine, in my pocket the whitening strips, this sprawl of language to undo language, my singular rocket, small stone against the text. Dig your well before you are thirsty, writes Sirhan, desperation his organizing principle, and mine. Wherever you are, I reach to you in agony. You reach in your way, in your regret. The words, a container in which we don't fit, our cramped togetherness, our immaterial togetherness, equality before and after the law, the underline, a doorway to unlinearity, where I will find you, and Sirhan will find us both, precious only to each other. I'm collecting the possibilities of stowing myself inside this missive, of hurling myself toward you, and hurling us both into impermissible vanishing. Life is ambivalence. Life is a struggle. Life is wicked. If life is in any way otherwise, I have honestly never seen it. I always seem to be on the losing end. Here on the losing end, we find each other. And like Sirhan, we scrawl our names over and over until they lose any meaning. Dissolved like sugar, sweetness, we shed at last the illusion of our separateness. And I become a breeze, as you have asked of me, and the breeze enters me. The breeze illuminates my sorrow caves, though I have not yet spoken truly to you in your excellent dwelling on the earth. You have illuminated my sorrow caves, where you are named noble, of strong passion. I do what I must needs do to slide with you into our unknowing. Belovedly, I pull down our traces, the kindnesses and the mistranslations, the questions asked and unanswered. What intimacy is, I do not know, and yet, inside of our caves, nothing is printed. Nothing remains beyond the knowledge of our spirits, how they do not dance nor spurn the earth. What page to us recalls anything besides cruelty? I have made you. I have made you into some language commodity, and I learn each day to release you. You have made me into some distant flame, and each day you learn to let me burn. What have we earned in this life aside from quiet? What have we decided we must do? Repair your heart, beloved. I will find you again when I have repaired mine, and we will walk, my hands recalling their terror and forgetting, your hands recalling their cruelty and forgetting, and no document can keep us now. Not I with my scrutability finally unnamed, not you with your velocity finally unmoored. You, the song of an animal without a kingdom. You, the last moments of a dying fire. You, the last failure of the court in the extradition. You, applause of a person, emptiness of a person. You, my best and only break. You, toward whom my every performance was aimed and inspirited. Baba, thou, unloved, unlucked, beloved, be wind, be gone. Language will always be trying to hold you, and I will always be trying to let you go. Thanks.
Thank you so much to our readers tonight, Rebecca and Fargo. If we can get another round of applause. o'clock, November 4th, for Harriet Mullen. Have a great evening, everyone.